Are you brave enough to spend a night in a haunted hotel? Across America, there are places where ghostly whispers fill the hallways, lights flicker without reason, and guests check out long before sunrise. From eerie apparitions to unexplained footsteps, these hotels have a chilling reputation for paranormal activity. Tonight, we're taking you on a spine-tingling journey through the 5 most haunted hotels in America, places where the past refuses to rest. Turn off the lights, grab your popcorn, and let's dive in. If you dare. Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Built in 1886, the Crescent Hotel was meant to be a luxurious escape for the wealthy. Its grand halls echoed with laughter, its rooms filled with the scent of perfume and cigar smoke. But just as quickly as it rose, misfortune set in. Mismanagement, financial ruin, and eventually, death. But it wasn't until the 1930s that the hotel's darkest chapter began. When a man named Norman Baker arrived. Norman Baker was a man of many things. A radio host, a millionaire, a self-proclaimed genius. But most notably, he was a con artist. He bought the Crescent Hotel and turned it into a cancer hospital, promising desperate patients a miracle cure. There was just one problem: his cure was fake. And his patients, they never left. Hundreds of patients died within these walls, their bodies hidden in the basement. The echoes of their suffering remain to this day. The dead are never truly gone. And at the Crescent Hotel, they make themselves known. Guests report strange occurrences, cold spots, disembodied voices, even full-bodied apparitions. And then there's room 218. They say a stonemason named Michael fell to his death during the hotel's construction, landing where this very room now stands. Visitors hear his whispers at night. Some wake up to the feeling of unseen hands pulling at their blankets. And then there's the nurse, a spirit in white, seen pushing a gurney through the halls at 2 a.m., just as they once did when Baker's hospital was active. If you listen closely, you might even hear the creak of the wheels. In 2019, workers made a horrifying discovery. Hundreds of glass bottles buried beneath the Crescent, filled with mysterious human remains and Baker's so-called medicine, proof of the suffering he inflicted, evidence that still lingers in the soil. Some say this discovery stirred something within the hotel. Since then, the activity has only intensified. One guest awoke in terror to find a man in a purple suit standing at the foot of her bed. He simply stared before vanishing into the darkness. Some believe this to be Norman Baker himself, watching over his work even in death. The Crescent Hotel is a place where history and horror intertwine, a place where the echoes of the past refuse to fade. If you ever find yourself walking its halls at night, listen carefully. The dead might be listening to Omni Parker House in Boston. Built in 1855 by Harvey Parker, the Omni Parker House is the longest continuously operating hotel in the United States. Over the years, it has hosted some of history's most famous figures: Charles Dickens, Mark Twain, John Wilkes Booth. But some guests never checked out. Some still roam the halls, trapped between the past and present, seeking something. Harvey Parker himself is said to remain within the walls of his beloved hotel. Guests have reported seeing a well-dressed man with piercing eyes watching them from the foot of their beds. Others have encountered a shadowy figure silently observing them in the mirror, only to vanish when they turn around. One guest, staying alone in room 1078, awoke to the suffocating feeling of being watched. When she looked up, she saw a man in an old-fashioned suit standing in the corner. He stared, unblinking. She turned on the light, and he was gone. But the impression of his weight remained on the chair where he had been sitting. The hotel's elevators have a mind of their own. They frequently travel up to the 3rd floor, with no one inside. But why the 3rd floor? That floor holds the infamous room 303, a room so haunted. The hotel permanently sealed it off. Decades ago, a long-term resident in room 303 met a gruesome end. Some say he was murdered, others claim he took his own life. But one thing is certain: his tormented spirit remains. Guests reported hearing the sounds of heavy breathing in the dark, the rancid stench of whiskey and smoke filling the air. One guest even awoke to the sight of a dark figure looming over their bed, only for it to dissolve into the shadows. And it's not just room 303. Throughout the hotel, guests have heard disembodied laughter, the sound of children running down empty hallways, and whispered conversations in vacant rooms. One housekeeper quit after seeing the ghostly outline of a woman in Victorian clothing appear in a mirror behind her. When she turned, nothing was there. Even the kitchen is not safe. Chefs have reported utensils flying off counters, and one cook once swore he heard someone softly reciting poetry in an empty room. Some say it was Charles Dickens himself, revisiting the place where he once recited A Christmas Carol. The Omni Parker House is a masterpiece of history, a landmark of luxury. But for those who enter, beware. Some guests check out, others never leave. Do you dare stay the night? Let us know in the comments below. Long before the Bourbon Orleans Hotel welcomed guests, it was a ballroom, a convent, and even an orphanage. Built in the early 19th century, this elegant structure was once home to the Grand Orleans Ballroom, a place where New Orleans elite danced under glittering chandeliers. But beneath the glamour, darkness crept in. After years of grandeur, the building was purchased by the Sisters of the Holy Family, who turned it into a convent and an orphanage. However, New Orleans was a city plagued by yellow fever. The disease swept through the orphanage, claiming the lives of countless children and nuns. Their cries of agony echoed through these halls, echoes that some say still linger to this day. Perhaps the most heartbreaking spirits trapped within these walls are the children who perished from yellow fever. Guests have reported the sound of tiny footsteps running through the halls when no one is there. Laughter, soft at first, then rising into eerie giggles, fills the silence of empty corridors. Doors creak open on their own, and if you listen closely, you might hear a soft voice whispering, "Come play with me." In the ballroom, where lavish dances once brought joy, a different kind of dance unfolds. The lonely dancer, a beautiful woman in a flowing yellow dress, has been seen gliding gracefully across the floor, her form barely more than a flickering shadow. Some say she was a Creole woman who longed for a love that never came. Now, she waits, eternally twirling in the moonlight, forever seeking a partner. Deep in the silence of the night, the sound of heavy boots marches through the halls. The ghost of a Confederate soldier, still standing guard long after his time, is said to lurk on the 6th floor. Many guests have reported waking up to see a tall, shadowy figure standing at the foot of their bed, watching them with hollow, empty eyes. By the time they blink, he vanishes, leaving behind only a cold chill in the air. The nuns who once ran the convent were devoted caretakers, but some say their spirits remain, watching over their lost children. In the dead of night, guests have heard soft murmurs, prayers whispered in an unknown tongue. Some have even claimed to see a nun in full habit gliding down the hall, only for her form to dissolve into nothing. Over the years, countless visitors have shared chilling encounters. A woman staying in room 644 awoke to the sensation of a cold hand brushing against her cheek. Yet she was alone. Another guest checking in for a romantic weekend found his belongings mysteriously rearranged, as if an unseen presence had been rifling through them. The Bourbon Orleans Hotel stands as a testament to New Orleans' hauntingly beautiful past. But its past refuses to rest. If you ever find yourself staying in one of its elegant rooms, listen closely. The whispers in the dark, the shadows at your door, they may not be tricks of the mind. Because in this hotel, the past isn't just remembered. It lingers. Sweet dreams. The Stanley Hotel, Estes Park, Colorado. Nestled in the serene yet shadowy Rocky Mountains of Colorado, the Stanley Hotel looks like something out of a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. But behind its picturesque facade lies a history drenched in mystery, terror, and the echoes of the past that refuse to fade away. In 1909, entrepreneur freelance Oscar Stanley built this grand hotel as a luxurious retreat for the wealthy. It was meant to be a beacon of opulence, a haven far removed from the bustling chaos of city life. But little did Stanley know, his creation would become a magnet for something else entirely. something otherworldly. From unexplained apparitions to ghostly laughter echoing through empty halls, the Stanley Hotel has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted locations in America. But where do these hauntings come from? And who or what still lingers here? Let's start with one of the most infamous areas of the Stanley Hotel, the fourth floor. Guests staying in room 401 have reported the feeling of being watched, their belongings mysteriously moved, and even the sensation of an invisible hand touching their shoulders. Could it be the spirit of Lord Dunraven, the land's original owner, who reportedly haunts this space? And then there's room 217, the most legendary room of them all. In 1911, housekeeper Elizabeth Wilson nearly lost her life here in a gas explosion. Guests claim her spirit is still present, folding clothes, turning lights on and off, and tucking visitors into bed. Yes, you heard that right. Tucked into bed by a ghost. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is certain. The Stanley Hotel holds secrets that time cannot erase. Its beauty hides a darkness that beckons thrill seekers and skeptics alike. But remember, when you check in, you may not be alone. After all, some guests never leave. The Queen Mary Hotel. Welcome aboard the RMS Queen Mary, once a luxury ocean liner, now one of the most haunted places in the world. From wartime tragedy to ghostly encounters, this historic ship in Long Beach, California, has a story to tell. But beware, not all its passengers have left. The Queen Mary first set sail in 1936, a majestic vessel of elegance and power. For years, it was the pinnacle of luxury, carrying celebrities, royalty, and dignitaries across the Atlantic. But the ship's fate changed during World War II, when it was converted into a troop ship and dubbed the Grey Ghost. Over 800,000 troops were transported, and her decks saw countless moments of joy, sorrow, and even death. After the war, she resumed her role as a passenger liner until her retirement in 1967, when she was permanently docked here in Long Beach. But some say she never stopped moving. At least, not in the spiritual realm. His is the first-class pool, once a place of laughter and elegance. But now, it's eerily silent, except, of course, for the phantom footsteps, the sudden splashes, and the chilling presence of Jackie, a little girl who supposedly drowned here. Visitors claim to hear her giggling or calling out for her mother, even though the pool has been dry for decades. And then there's the engine room, a labyrinth of pipes and shadows. In 1966, an 18-year-old crew member named John Petter was tragically crushed by a watertight door during a drill. They say his ghost still lingers, with some guests reporting cold drafts, disembodied whispers, and even the sensation of being watched. Finally, we come to stateroom B340, perhaps the most haunted place on the ship. So haunted, in fact, that it was closed to the public for years. Guests who stayed here reported bedding being ripped off them, faucets turning on by themselves, and sinister apparitions standing at the foot of their beds. The Queen Mary reopened the room in 2018, but only for those brave enough to spend a night inside. The Queen Mary is more than a ship. It's a vessel of memories, some beautiful, some tragic, and some terrifying. If you ever decide to visit, remember, you may not be alone. And if you're bold enough to spend the night, well, let's hope you make it till dawn. So, would you spend the night in any of these haunted hotels? Or maybe you already have a ghost story of your own. Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this spooky journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We've got more chilling content coming your way. Until next time, sleep tight, and watch out for things that go bump in the night.